Hello, welcome to our Heritage Works. Today, we're roasting a duck. I have already preheated our oven. It's in the process of heating up. I've also taken out the giblets and I've washed the duck inside and out just to make sure that I've gotten everything out of the cavity and making sure it's ready to go. Like I said, what I'm going to use today is my own home seasoning. It is a combination of paprika and some other spices. You could use just paprika and a little bit of salt and pepper if you want it. But I'm going to splay out the duck. And I'm putting it in the aluminum pan so that it is raised just a little bit off of the duck itself. And then I'm also going to use the roasting pan underneath it as a way of supporting the duck while I'm carrying it so that it's not weak. So all I'm going to do is add a very generous helping of our seasoning. And it's just a matter of sprinkling it on. I am reusing a commercial blends of seasoned salt container just because I find it convenient and I can recognize what it is quickly when I go through the cabinet. But just a nice even coat is all that it takes, and then it's going to go into the oven for about an hour at 375 degrees. I've prepared 2 little custard dishes with a 1/4 cup each with butter, and I'm going to put this in front of on top of the stove where the heat comes out from the vent, and all I'm doing is cut it, take the wrapper off, put it in the dish, and then I'll set this in front of that heat, and it'll melt this butter during that hour that the duck is cooking. Once the duck is cooked for the hour and I'm ready to baste it, I can take one of these off. It's ready to go, pour it on the duck, and then put the duck back in the oven. When I'm ready for the second round, I can do the same thing. Okay, now that my duck has been roasting for an hour, I'm going to add the butter that's been melting on the stove. And the dish is very hot. And all I'm going to do is dab this butter and spread it out over top. I'll make sure I get all the nooks and crannies. Down on the feet, down on the wings, up around the neck. Everywhere gets a little bit of butter. Just keep spreading it out. Now I'm using a brush here, but you could easily spoon it on as well. You don't have to use a brush. I'm using the brush because I can. Again, this plate's really hot. It's been sitting with 350 degree heat coming out, sitting on it. Again, I want to make sure I get all of these little spots. I can feel that it attached itself to the side. I just simply used my brush there to open it up. Now, I also have a lid available for this. I'm not going to put it on just yet, but if it starts to get too dark, I'm going to cover this with a lid. Now, if you don't have a lid, you can also use foil. Foil will work just wonderfully. Again, your only concern is to make sure that it's not getting too brown on top. Again, I'm just trying to make sure I get this butter everywhere so that it can really start to roast. This should help give it a nice golden, crispy crust of skin on top. Now you'll also notice all the good stuff down on the bottom of the pan. That is the fat that's coming from the breast. One of the things you have to be careful with duck is the breast is just loaded with fat just under the skin. You need to make sure that you're rendering all that fat out or cutting it out. By rendering it out, we've got the fat side up. That fat is going to melt and go down and baste the inside of this duck as we go. So make sure that you're just getting a nice even coat. That's looking pretty good to me. I'm gonna wipe the edge off just a little bit from where I dropped a little bit of the butter. I don't really want that to burn while it's in the oven. So I'm just getting a little extra off the edge. Like I said, butter, hot temperature. I just don't want it to burn. I'll put this back in the oven for another 45 minutes. Now that we're ready for the second round of cooking, I'm going to add more butter. The butter again is going to be brushed on, just like we did the first time. And we want to get all those same areas that we did last time. So I'm going to start here on the breast, and I can tell that this fat underneath the breast is reduced down and most of it's sitting down there in the pan. I will be making a gravy out of these drippings. There's a lot of fat in it, so it'll make a really good dressing or gravy. And I will be using my chicken gravy powder for my gravy mix. All I need is some fat, the powder, and then some liquid to make it. I can use milk, or I can use broth, stock, anything like that I want. So I'll use a little bit of this broth that's in here, and I will also then use that and count it towards my fat. And it should produce a very, very good and tasty gravy. Now, the duck is looking pretty good. I did not need to put the lid on it, as I was wondering if I would need to or not. So I'm going to put this back in the oven for another 15 minutes, and then I can let it rest while I make the gravy. So back in it goes. As you can see, our duck is beautiful. It's nicely roasted all around. What I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer the duck to a different plate so that it can rest. And then I'm going to use the juices and the fat that's in the pan to make a delicious gravy, which I'll do off camera and I'll come back and show you. Isn't that a beautiful looking duck? You can tell the skin is nice, and that'll crisp up just a little bit. If you're wondering about the nutrition on this meal, it's probably not something you should have every day. It is high in sodium. That's because of the coating that's on it. Even though I used a low sodium version, there's still quite a bit on there. And so if you're watching your sodium, probably not the best choice. It's also relatively high in fats. Again, that duck has a fat layer just underneath the skin of the breast, and that's what you see now in the bottom of the pan here. This is all those good drippings from that breast, and it's beautifully, wonderfully tasting, but it is high in fat. So let me go. I'll make some gravy, and then I'll show you the final product when we're done. And there you have it. We've got some nice mashed potatoes with butter on top. We'll stir that in a minute. The gravy, you can see it's nice and thick, creamy. I used just a little bit of milk in it to make it nice and creamy. But that duck broth or sauce that was down at the bottom of the pan is just going to be delicious. Let me build a plate and I'll show you the results. If you have liked the video so far, please take a moment and hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. And thank you for watching.